Hey there. There are two ways to run a startup: chaotic and orderly. Let's look at each of them. In a chaotically run startup, multiple people give work to engineers. Here you have the poor engineer, and everyone is giving work saying, do this, do this, do this, right? Sometimes the same person that gives a task to an engineer gives another task to the engineer before the first is done, and then a second, and then a third. And engineers are pinged multiple times to ask about the status of the work. Nothing is done on time. Commitments made to customers are not kept. There are no documented processes. There's no project management or product management, right? Project management consists of messaging engineers and asking, please do this. Sprints are not followed at all, or if they are done half-heartedly. There are no coding guidelines, there are no code reviews, design reviews, nothing, right? And different people in a company don't agree on a way in which things need to be done. Everyone has their own opinion on things. And engineers are pinged by founders and asked, do this by Monday somehow. And if you want to run a chaotic startup, you can hire the average engineer. Many business people hire such people. I'm not saying business people are the only ones who hire average engineers, but they tend to do it disproportionately. Or they take a cost centric approach, right? We can hire someone for 10, 15 lakhs. Why pay 30 lakhs or 40? That will work for a chaotically run company. The other way of running a startup is orderly. In an orderly way, in an orderly run startup, you have an engineer and tasks are in a queue, right? The engineer is not being bombarded by things at the same time. He's not being interrupted. He knows what comes after what. He gets to work on each task, giving it the focus and attention it needs. There are a clear roles. There is a clear role of a PM. Your product processes. There is a prioritization board at the high level. For example, at this stage of the company, what do we need to do? Let's say we don't need to improve the UX. We need to improve something else. We need to have more features. That high level prioritization is there. And tasks that fall under the category of less important, like UX in this example, are not even discussed or given to engineers. There's low level prioritization also. Among these five tasks, the engineer knows that this is first priority, then this, then this, then this, then this. You have engineering processes like code reviews which are followed. There's a healthy engineering culture of tech talks and so on. There are engineering procedures like launch which are documented, which says to launch, first step, second step, third step, fourth step. And some people have a bias against process. I think it's bureaucratic. Process can just be 4 steps in a Google Doc to launch. Process need not be a 20-page document. So process does not mean bureaucracy. Bureaucracy means too much process. But I'm talking about the right level of process here. The amount of process a McDonald's has to follow is different from the amount of process an international airport has to follow, right? And as long as each organization is using the appropriate level of process, that's good. When you have a process, you follow it. You don't cut corners to meet a deadline. If the founder says do it by Monday somehow and the engineer says no, this will take 2, 3 weeks, then we will wait 2, 3 weeks. To run an orderly company, you need the best engineers, like the top 2% or 5%. So these are the two ways in which you run a startup. You can run it in a chaotic manner, or an orderly manner. Startups start off life chaotic. No different from babies, right? They're bashing into things, they're not thinking things through, they're falling over, etc. There comes a time in the startup's life when chaos no longer works and we need to do things in an orderly manner. What are the signs you should look for to recognize that this point has arrived? One sign is an unreliable product. You have a lot of bugs. Fixed bugs keep reappearing. Fixing one bug causes another. You have outages. It is slow. You limit what customers can do to prevent the product from going down. So if you have a messaging app, you say a group can have only 200 members, even though the customer really wants more than 200 to prevent the system from crashing. If it's an API product, you have APIs that don't work properly. So these are all forms of unreliability, outages, all these things. In this case, you should try to quantify what percentage of users will leave in the next year if you don't fix the unreliability. Is it 5%? Is it 70%? Like you don't need to obsess about the exact number, whether it's 45 or 50 doesn't matter, but just a rough sense. Because if it is 5%, it's not worth fixing. You should continue running your company in a chaotic manner. And building a reliable product costs more, not just in software, but in every field. If you want to make a car and you say it's okay to have an unreliable car, the brakes may not work reliably. If there's a steep hill, it may not go uphill. If it rains, the rainwater will leak into the car. It will need maintenance every week. Its fuel efficiency will be atrocious. And if you have an accident, your family dies because there's no safety features. That our car is made out of cardboard. Building such a car will cost much less money than building a reliable car. And it will be done quickly as well. So, in any area of life, building a reliable product costs more than building an unreliable product. And you need to figure out whether that cost is worth paying because there's no free lunch in the world. Anytime you say, I want something, there's a bill that comes with it, which you have to pay. So, which is why you should think about what percentage of users will leave in the next year. So, this is one sign, an unreliable product. The second sign is deliveries have slowed down. Non tech stakeholders are unhappy. The tech team is unhappy. There's a feeling we got stuck. There's too much chaos in the company. People are not comfortable. There isn't, things are not happening properly. So, this is the second sign. First sign is the product has become unreliable from an engineering point of view. And when we say reliable or working well, we are not talking about UX and things like that, or it doesn't have the features that users want. We are talking about only from an engineering point of view. The product is unreliable. The second sign is that the company itself has bogged down. Excuse me. Both of these are signs that the days of chaos are over and you should transition the startup to an orderly manner. Many companies continue working in a chaotic manner long past the time when it is appropriate. If you have three friends visiting a lake, you don't need a lot of organization and planning and process. Just wander around. But when you have, let's say, a group of, let's say, an army who is sweeping the lake for mines, it needs to be done in an orderly manner, right? Otherwise, you'll skip some areas and cover other areas twice and so on. So, as you grow, you should not remain chaotic past the point where it makes sense. And you have to be convinced about this transition before you do it. Sometimes companies say yes reluctantly, and they undermine the process whenever they have something that needs to be done. Or they wait a few months and then they start going back to their older way. A process doesn't work unless everyone follows it. If you have assigned seats in a plane, everyone needs to follow it, right? If some people start sitting wherever they want to sit, the entire process breaks down. And if you're going to subvert the process, don't even put the process into place to begin with. You're not achieving anything by doing that. If you want me to help you with this, I can do that. I can look into how your company is running, assess how well the engineering is working, assess how well the project management is working, and make a recommendation. We'll figure out collaboratively whether you need to transition from chaos to order. And if you do want to transition, I'll work with you to make the change. I've put my consulting link in the description. Thank you.